You know, for any weaver, picking out a floor loom is a massive decision. It's so much more than just a tool, it's going to be your creative partner. But when you've got three very different types to choose from, where do you even begin? Well, in this explainer, we're going to decode the mechanics behind each one to help you find your perfect match.
So here's the plan. We're going to kick things off with a real-world weaver's dilemma. Then, we'll unlock the one single concept that explains everything, the shed. After that, we'll meet our three main looms, solve a classic and kind of frustrating weaving puzzle, and then wrap it all up by helping you figure out which weaving partner is the right one for you.
All right, so we're not going to start with a bunch of boring, abstract engineering stuff. No, we're diving straight into a real-world question that weavers ask all the time. Which loom is actually right for me?
Take this question from a weaver named Monica. It's just perfect. She's used to a jack loom, and now she's thinking about a countermarch. She can already feel that the treadles are different, but she's got this gut feeling there's more to it. And you know what? She's absolutely right.
So yeah, that's really the big question we're here to tackle. These aren't just brand names, you know? They represent totally different mechanical systems, and each one has its own unique way of creating fabric. And understanding that difference, that's the key to really mastering your craft.
Okay, so to really get these looms, you've got to understand one single action that makes all of weaving possible. It's a really simple, elegant idea, and once it clicks, the differences between these looms will suddenly make perfect sense. It's all about something called the shed.
So what is it? Well, the shed is basically just this triangular opening you see. A bunch of your warp threads, those are the ones running from the front to the back, get lifted up or pushed down, or sometimes both, just to create a clean path for your shuttle to zip through with the weft yarn. That's it. That's the whole magic trick right there. Think about it. Every single time you press a treadle, its only job is to create a new shed. The entire purpose of the loom is just to open and close that little gap in a specific order to make a pattern. The jack, the counterbalance, and the countermarch, they're just three totally different ways of solving the exact same problem.
All right, so let's meet the contenders. Each one of these looms has its own personality, its own strengths, and, yeah, its own little quirks when it comes to the job of making that all-important shed.
But wait, before we dive into the looms themselves, there are two fundamental ways a shed can even be made. You've got a rising shed, which lifts the threads up, and a sinking shed, which pulls them down. And honestly, this one difference is the key to understanding everything else.
Okay, first up to the plate, we've got the jack loom. This is probably the one you see most often, especially for hobby weavers in North America. And its name actually gives you a pretty big hint about how it works. The jack loom makes what's called a pure rising shed. When you press a treadle, little jacks literally lift the shafts you've chosen upwards. But here's the thing you really got to remember. Because those threads are being pulled up against gravity, they're under way more tension than the threads just sitting there at the bottom. This makes the tie-up nice and simple, but it's not great for things like rugs where you need super high, even tension. Oh, and yeah, all that metal, it makes a very distinct and sometimes loud clack, clack, clack while you're working.
All right, next on our list is the counterbalance loom. This is an older design, and it works on this just beautiful, simple principle of physics.
I want you to think of a counterbalance loom kind of like a seesaw on a playground. The shafts are connected in pairs over these pulleys, so when you pull one shaft down, its partner automatically rises up. This creates this gorgeous symmetrical shed, and most importantly, it keeps the tension perfectly even across all the warp threads. That makes it amazing for rugs and balanced patterns. So what's the catch? It starts to get a little fussy with unbalanced weaves, like if you wanted to lift 3 shafts and sink only one.
And that brings us to our final contestant, the countermarch loom, the one Monica was looking at. Now, this is the one that people often see as the most complicated, but it's also by far the most powerful.
So, just like the counterbalance, the countermarch makes a rising and sinking shed, which gives you that beautiful, even tension. But here, and this is the real game changer, every single shaft is totally independent. For each treadle, you have to tie every shaft to either go up or go down. Now, I'm not gonna lie, the tie-up can be a beast. It takes time, but the payoff is total, absolute control. You can make any combination you want, which makes it perfect for pretty much any project, especially with tricky fibers like linen.
Okay, so we've talked mechanics, but you might be thinking, why does any of this actually matter in the real world? Well, let's solve a little mystery that brings it all home.
Has this ever happened to you? It's such a frustrating moment. You're weaving along, everything feels like it's going right, but the pattern you thought you were making is actually showing up on the bottom of your fabric. The problem isn't you. It's a classic mismatch between your type of loom and the instructions you're following.
So, let's break down what's actually going on here. A tie-up chart for a sinking shed loom, usually marked with X's, is telling you which shafts to pull down. But a chart for a rising shed loom, often marked with O's, tells you which ones to lift up. And for the exact same pattern, the tie-ups are literally a mirror image of each other. So if you use a sinking draft on a rising loom, you're basically weaving the negative of the pattern. And that is why your beautiful pattern is coming out upside down.
But here's the great news. The fix is super simple. You don't have to rethread your whole loom. You just invert the tie-up. Every box that was marked becomes empty, and every empty box gets a mark. Once you retie your treadles to match, poof, your pattern will magically flip right side up.
Okay, so we've seen the mechanics, we've solved the mystery. Now for the big question. How on earth do you choose the right one for you?
When you lay it all out like this, you can see it's all about trade-offs, right? The jack loom is all about simplicity, which makes it super fast to set up, but you give up that perfectly even tension. The counterbalance gives you that even tension, but it's really at its best with balanced weaves. And the counter march, well, it offers you the ultimate control over any pattern you can dream of, but it asks for a big-time investment in that complex tie-up. So you see, there's no single best loom. There's only the loom that's best for the kind of artist you are and the kind of work you want to create.
So after all that, what's it gonna be? Are you looking for speed and simplicity, or are you after absolute control? Do you dream of delicate linens or powerful, sturdy rugs? The choice, as always, is yours, because the right partner is out there just waiting to help you weave your ideas into reality.